Everyone in the dojo saw him as an outsider, just a foreigner who didn't belong to their ancient traditions. But what they didn't realize was that behavioral analysis proves that true discipline isn't born from heritage, but from the subconscious drive to prove everyone wrong. Today on Movie Recap Intelligence, we're doing a full movie recap of a story where an abandoned orphan becomes the only man trusted with a 1,000-year-old lethal secret. This ending explained will reveal the real reason why the foreigner was the only one who could truly open the chest. We have pulled out 4 essential life lessons you won't forget. Believe me, this movie breakdown is as sharp as a Masamune blade. The movie starts as the screen fades in on ancient Japanese imagery, a deep, resonant voice narrating the lore of the ninja. Empty your mind. No distraction, no emotion, only calm and clarity. The voice continues as the camera slowly pans across an ornate, locked chest, the Yoroi Bitsu, resting in dim, reverent light within an old dojo. The narrator continues solemnly. This is the most sacred chest, the only remaining object of the last Koga ninja, the final resting place for the weapons of ninja warriors through the ages. Their powers are legendary, each piece carrying its own story, handed down for 1,000 years, created for one purpose only: sudden, violent death. The tone shifts to awe as the voice describes how with these weapons, the ninja became much more than a mere warrior. He became the supreme lethal dissident, using them for profit and wars. It became an art as pure as it was ruthless. Over the years, the ninja forged the deadliest poisons, with only one antidote, holding the power of life and death. Tradition speaks of the shinobu katana. It has the power to take life, but in the hands of a true Koga ninja, it holds the power to restore life's spirit. The Yoroi Bitsu and its secrets were pushed from the battlefield into the imagination, hidden from sight. Safe in this ancient school, a single Yoroi Bitsu survived, and the secret of the ninja lives on, transforming the disciplines of death into Budo, a martial art of enlightenment. But the deadliest weapon isn't in that chest. It's the jealousy rotting inside the dojo's top student. The scene transitions to the present-day dojo. The sensei, a stern instructor, calls names during training. Masazuka, a focused Japanese student, responds sharply, "Yes." Then Casey, an American student, Casey Bowman, tall, determined, sweat-soaked, answers yes. The sensei describes and acknowledges the strength of both and adds that none is complete without learning the virtues of the other. Later, in the quiet aftermath of practice, Casey trains alone late into the night. So does Masazuka. A young female student in the dojo, Kiko, approaches Casey with a cup of water. "Casey-san, water?" He gratefully accepts it and says thanks, Kiko. She observes how he always works later than anyone else. He admits he's not good at sitting still. Kiko smiles, noting the sensei thinks he has potential, as does someone else. Casey glances towards Namiko, the sensei's daughter, who watches from afar with quiet interest. Namiko comes out from behind the wall, and they both chat. They look at each other intimately as the moment carries subtle tension. The dojo forbids distractions like romance. Namiko returns. In Casey's room, he is looking at a photograph of himself as a child with his mother. He keeps the photograph as a reminder of his parents and background, but the atmosphere thickens when Masazuka confronts him privately. "It must have been very painful for you," Masazuka says coldly, probing Casey's past. Casey brushes it off as the past. Masazuka presses. "The past defines a man, tradition, heritage, parents. We have traditions. What do you have?" He mocks Casey's abandonment by his mother, who left him with just a letter and a photo, and his drunken father, who killed himself. Casey tenses, anger flashing in his eyes. This isn't just trash talk. It's a test of emotional intelligence. One Casey is about to pass, and Masazuka is about to fail. "Masazuka," Sensei calls him. The confrontation ends abruptly. Sensei warns him that he should not do any harm to Casey and that he is his brother in the dojo. The next day in the dojo, training resumes with intensity. Sensei calls Masazuka and Casey loudly and asks them to practice together. He wants them to bond as brothers in the dojo, but the rivalry simmers visibly. Masazuka's precise, aggressive strikes contrast Casey's resilient, adaptive style. Masazuka attacks Casey with a metal weapon instead of wood. He wants to kill Casey. Sensei expels him from the dojo because of that, as he has broken the dojo's code of conduct. This brings us to the first life lesson. Skill without discipline eventually destroys its own place of belonging. Masazuka is about to break every psychological boundary for power. If you're seeing parallels to narcissistic personality types in his actions, you're spot on, and we'll analyze that dynamic later in this movie breakdown. While Casey stays in the light of tradition, Masazuka finds a new home in the shadows of corporate greed, the Ring, based in New York. The scene cuts to where the Ring members gather performing a shadowy ceremony in a hidden chamber. Their leader welcomes them to another initiation. He says, "Our ranks and power grow. Throughout time, society has sought guidance from select leaders, men of vision and action." A new member accepts the bond in a ritualistic oath. In Vladivostok, Russia, there's a gathering of press members and business leaders for the news broadcast of an unprecedented agreement between two big Russian oil companies. They discuss the event as a major pipeline merger between the two companies. Mr. Klimatov, a business mogul who is an important part of this merger, is expected to make a statement to the press after signing the agreement. Inside the signing hall, chaos erupts. Men are attacked and assassinated in a very gruesome way by an expert killer who attacks like the ancient killers. Guess who he is? The reporter narrates live Mr. Klimatov's exit, but suddenly he's bleeding from the neck. Panic spreads. Back in New York, the other competitors at Temple Industries are rejoicing. Their leader says, "As promised, no more merger." They raise glasses in celebration. Back in Japan, a formal gathering is happening in the dojo. The sensei addresses honored guests, displaying the highest honor, the sacred Yoroi Bitsu. After 30 years as Soke, he must name a successor. Masazuka shows up and threatens them all, including the sensei, if he doesn't give him the sacred chest. At night, Sensei says the chest must be taken to the other side of the world, guarded and hidden from Masazuka. He trusts only one man, a scholar, to keep its power safe. In New York, the sensei's trusted friend, now revealed as Professor Paul Garrison, a scholar, now meets Casey and Namiko. For safety, the Yoroi Bitsu is stored in the university's vault. Casey and Namiko accompany him. The prof asks Casey how a young man like himself ended up in a Japanese dojo. He teases about him not fitting the demographic, a white guy. Casey shares his backstory. His father, Marine, stationed in Okinawa, his mother leaving due to his father's habitual drinking. She did not take him. Here is our second life lesson. The choices of parents can quietly shape the children's battles they must fight alone. Casey continues telling the story that defined him. His dad died in a drunk driving cliff crash when Casey was 12. A family friend brought him to Sensei instead of an orphanage. He stayed there ever since. This brings us to a critical psychological profile of our protagonist. While the other students see a foreigner, we see a classic trauma response. Casey isn't just training. He's filling a void left by childhood abandonment. As this movie breakdown continues, watch how his character motivation shifts from seeking approval to becoming the ultimate protector of the Yoroi Bitsu. A Temple oil executive faces the press about pipeline murders in Russia. He calls it tragedy, denies any correlation with their shares' rise after the merger fails. He insists the deaths threaten all and pledges $10 million for the killer's capture. He dodges questions about the Ring organization and benefits to his company. Namiko tries calling her father with no answer. Casey searches for Rebecca, her mom, but learns she died several months ago from a stroke. Professor Garrison welcomes Casey back, mentions Namiko is up, and heads to bed. Casey tells Namiko he couldn't see her mom because she had been sick. At night, assailants from the Ring cult hired by Masazuka attack the house. Casey yells to get down. Fight ensues. Professor is killed. Assailants demand the box. Casey and Namiko flee. They duck into a dimly lit motel on the edge of the city. The clerk barely glances up as Casey pays cash for a room. Inside the cramped space, they enter the shower. Namiko is still trembling. Casey tries to comfort her. "You okay?" She nods faintly, but her eyes are distant. They speak in hushed tones about what the assassins wanted. The box. Namiko murmurs, "Masazuka." Casey clenches his fists. If he knows where we are, that means my father. Namiko trails off, fear tightening her voice. Casey reassures her, we don't know that yet. Listen to me, we don't know that yet. Television news plays in the background, volume low. The anchor reports, although we still have no official confirmation, sources tell us it was a gangland-style hit. Witnesses claim several victims, including the professor. Photos of Casey and Namiko flash on screen, grainy security footage from the university. The suspects are male Caucasian, female Asian, reportedly in their mid-20s and are considered armed and extremely dangerous. Namiko turns away from the screen. Casey switches it off. Namiko suggests seeking assistance from the police, but Casey says no, as they would be held for a long time. They know the prof links them to the vault where Yoroi Bitsu is being kept. We have to move the Yoroi Bitsu tomorrow, Casey says. Namiko disappears for some time as Casey searches for her. She has gone to get something to eat from a nearby diner. Casey sees her at a small diner. He orders coffee and sandwiches while Namiko waits at a corner table. He returns with the coffee, setting it down gently. She manages a small smile. He reaches for sugar packets, then freezes. Through the window, two men in dark jackets approach rapidly, hands inside jackets. Down, Casey shouts, shoving Namiko to the floor as gunfire shatters the glass. Bullets rip through tables. Customers scream and dive for cover. Casey grabs Namiko's hand. Come on. They sprint out the back door into an alley, footsteps pounding behind them. The chase spills onto busy sidewalks. Casey and Namiko weave through pedestrians and motorists. Subway, Casey yells. They descend stairs two at a time, leaping over turnstiles. The platform is packed. A train rumbles in. They push aboard just as doors close, leaving the assailants on the platform, furious. Surprisingly, the gang members find their way into the train. Inside, Namiko stays close to Casey and says, they could be working for him. Casey nods grimly. The train races forward as the assailants move through each carriage, eyes scanning every seat. They search carefully, then suddenly they spot them. The attackers rush in. In the narrow aisle, Casey blocks the first strike and slams one man into a metal pole. Beside him, Namiko twists free from another grip, driving a sharp elbow into his chest before kicking him backward. Within seconds, their pursuers are down. The train screeches to a stop. They exit, climbing stairs to street level, only to find police officers blocking the intersection. Police spot them. Don't move. Put your hands on your head. Casey raises his arm slowly. Namiko does the same. Masazuka confronts the templeman about finding the Yoroi Bitsu. The man who confronts him tells him they found them, but they are in police custody. He kills him instantly by crushing his neck and angrily tells them to pray he finds the chest. Otherwise, there would be consequences for them. Masazuka arrives at the police station as an attorney for Namiko. At the interrogation room, Casey explains he was only visiting the late prof and denies the killing, saying the prof was killed by the same people who are after them now. Casey tells the detective the story about Masazuka and the Yoroi Bitsu. Detective Traxler is skeptical. No one has seen this Masazuka. Casey refuses to reveal the box's location. That leads to the third life lesson. Character isn't what you do when things are easy. It's what you refuse to give up when the world is screaming at you to quit. Casey knew that some burdens aren't weights, they're shields. Meanwhile, in a separate room, Namiko sits alone, staring at the table. The officer interrogating her says, "Your lawyer just showed up." Namiko looks confused. "My lawyer?" The lawyer is escorted in. His face is calm, eyes cold. It is Masazuka. Chaos erupts moments later. Shouts, gunfire in the corridors. Officers fall. Casey warns Detective Traxler. It's him. Casey, still chained to the interrogation table, strains against the metal, muscles bulging. He hears Namiko's muffled cry and roars her name. Chaos erupts at the station as Masazuka begins to kill the police officers on his way. Namiko breaks free from her interrogation room, but soon Masazuka captures her. She kicks and twists, but his grip is iron. Casey breaks free in the adjacent room, overturning the table, using the chain as a whip to break the glass wall. He spots Masazuka howling Namiko towards an exit stairwell. "Namiko!" Casey sprints after him, but Masazuka manages to deal with Casey and takes her away. For Casey, Namiko is the last link to his family, and the box is his honor. If he loses both, he loses himself. Cut to a dimly lit warehouse where Namiko is bound to a chair, wrists tied behind her, with a heavy black blindfold knotted tightly behind her head, completely sightless. Masazuka circles her slowly, holding a very sharp knife. His scar, earned years ago by Casey, twitches as he speaks in low, mocking tones. Your father trusted the wrong man. Now you pay for his mistake. Namiko glares up at him, defiant despite the fear in her eyes. She struggles against the ropes, but they hold firm. Masazuka leans in close, whispers, Casey will come, and when he does, the Yoroi Bitsu will be mine. Meanwhile, Casey infiltrates Temple Industries, scaling a fence, slipping past security cameras, moving with trained stealth. With precise, lightning-fast movements, he disarms one attacker, then another. A spinning kick sends one flying. A brutal strike forces another to drop his weapon. Their leader tries to escape, but Casey gets him quickly. He wraps his arm around his neck from behind, locking it tight. The grip is firm, almost crushing. He tries to pull free, but the hold only tightens. Panic flashes across his face as the air begins to slip away. Casey takes the man's phone, dials Masazuka's number directly. The line connects. He asks for Namiko and threatens that no harm should befall her. Masazuka only wants the sacred chest, the Yoroi Bitsu. He gives Masazuka the construction site address to meet him. Casey races to the university's vault to retrieve the Yoroi bits. The student is gone. The American is gone. Right there, Casey opens the sacred chest and merges with 1,000 years of lethality. He isn't just wearing armor, he's becoming the legend Masazuka was never worthy of. At the construction site, Masazuka waits on the open floor, Namiko bound nearby. Casey arrives, lowering the chest via crane, as agreed. Masazuka releases Namiko partially, her hands still tied, but the chest opens empty. Rage flashes across Masazuka's face. The ring's thugs emerge from shadows, guns raised, ordered by the temple to eliminate all three. A massive brawl erupts. Casey and Namiko, now freed in the chaos, fight back to back. She uses precise kicks and a bow and arrow. He unleashes devastating combos. Masazuka joins reluctantly at first, cutting down his former allies to survive. Together, they clear the thugs in a whirlwind of blades, fists, and gunfire. Masazuka turns on Namiko, firing a poison dart from a blowgun. She collapses, gasping, venom spreading fast. Masazuka taunts Casey with the antidote vial, dangling it. Casey lunges in fury. Masazuka drops the bottle deliberately, shattering it. Casey roars, charging. NYPD helicopter spotlight sweeps in, blinding flashes off Masazuka's katana. He uses the reflection ninjutsu to vanish momentarily. Casey, relying on instinct and training, senses the attack, spins, parries, then drives his blade through Masazuka from behind. Masazuka gasps, dropping. Casey rushes to Namiko, cradling her. Namiko, no. She weakens, eyes fluttering. Remembering the sensei's words, the katana's dual power, he examines the hilt, finds the hidden antidote compartment. He administers it swiftly. She recovers, her breathing steadies. This reveals the final life lesson. The ultimate test of a warrior isn't how well he can kill, but what he is willing to save. Anyone can be a weapon. Only a master can be a shield. This ending explains the legacy of the ninja, but it also shows us a powerful behavioral truth. Your background doesn't define your destiny, your discipline does. They thought he was just a foreigner, but he became the blueprint for enlightenment. Before leaving, Casey finishes Masazuka with a decisive strike, a decapitation that ends the threat forever. Casey saved Namiko with the mercy of a healer, but he finished Masazuka with the justice of a judge. Some evils don't deserve a second chance, they only deserve an end. Dawn breaks over the city. Police swarm the scene. Detective Troxler approaches Casey and Namiko, now sitting together in the back of an ambulance, wrapped in bandages. This is one hell of a mess here, Casey. It's going to take days, hell, maybe weeks to clean this up, Troxler says as he glances at the broken weapons scattered around, the empty Yoroi Bitsu. Not that it really matters anymore, does it? The main thing is, the ring is broken. Temple's in custody. Then there's you two. He pauses, looking them over. You're late for your plane. Casey manages a tired smile as Troxler presents them with their passports and tells them to get out of the States permanently. Troxler knew the law couldn't touch a shadow, so he did the only thing a good cop could. He looked the other way while the ghosts went home. The final scene shows them returning to Japan, paying quiet homage at the sensei's grave, flowers placed, heads bowed in respect. They reopen the dojo together, continuing the legacy transformed, not of death, but of enlightenment, protection, and love. The camera lingers on the rebuilt training hall, students practicing under their guidance, the Yoroi Bitsu secrets safe at last. Across rivalry, loss, secrecy, and redemption, the story shows how discipline, loyalty, and restraint determine who a warrior truly becomes. Weapons, power, and skill are constant, but the choice behind them defines destiny. In the end, legacy is not preserved by strength alone, but by what that strength protects. These are the lessons I pulled from this story, but I know there are more. Do you think the sensei was partly to blame for Masazuka's dark path, or was it pure evil? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and if this breakdown added value, subscribe for more deep dives into the movies you love. Hit that like button and share it around to help the channel out. Thank you.